Hey everybody, So Nuts here, and I hope you're having a Merry Christmas. Something. Anyways, I'm making this video to speak about some childhood Christmas stories. Now, growing up, I was part of a low-income family. It was me, my mom, my brother, my sister, and my dad. And my dad was the main breadwinner. My mom really couldn't work because she had to stay home with us three kids because she didn't really have any family members who would babysit us back in the day. So it was up to her to stay home, and it was up to dad to make the money to pay the bills, and so on and yada yada. And my dad was the stubborn type. He's the type who always wanted to own his own business, be his own boss. He's always hated working for other people and being bossed around, so he'd always work a job for months on end and then end up getting himself fired, or he'd end up quitting. And when that would happen, we'd run low on money. We'd end up getting the electric shut off for days on end. We'd end up going without food for days on end. We'd end up getting evicted from places and having to stay in a vehicle, stay with relatives, or stay in a motel. And we've stayed in a lot of motels. I mean, there was one time we stayed in a motel for over a month when my dad was unemployed. And to make money to pay for the motel and the food and whatnot, my dad would scrap. He'd go around finding, broken down washers, dryers, and shit to take to the scrapyard to make some money and shit. And most of the time, he'd only make enough to pay for the room, and we'd go without food. And I remember me, my mom, my brother, and sister would watch the Food Network because we'd get so hungry and our mouths would water. And I know it's kind of dumb. If you're hungry, why the hell would you want to watch a Food Network? It'd just make you hungrier. But that's just the way we were, But yeah, enough about that. That has nothing to do with the Christmas stories, but I'm just giving you a little synopsis on my childhood and how bad we had it. But there were only really a few Christmases in my life where I received what I wanted, and most of the other ones I just received clothes or toys that I didn't really care for or whatever. But there's been a few Christmases where I received what I wanted. Like one Christmas I was staying in Chattahoochee, Florida, and it's when Jingle All the Way was really popular. And after watching that movie, I really wanted a Turbo Man. I mean, that's all I would talk about. I'd be like, Mommy, Daddy, for Christmas I want Turbo Man. Well, I don't know if I sounded like that. I really don't even remember how old I was. I was probably 10, 11, I don't really know. It was the time Space Jam came out and Jingle All the Way, because for Christmas, I ended up getting some Space Jam toys. I ended up getting the Space Jam jerseys and some other toys. And now this story is kind of like from a Christmas story, I ended up getting all this other stuff that I kind of wanted, but the main thing I wanted I didn't get. So I was just sitting down and my dad asked me, did you get everything you wanted? And I was like, yeah, pretty much, but I didn't get Turbo Man. I really wanted that one more than any of these other ones. And then Dad tells me to look behind the cabinet that was in the living room. So I go look behind it, and what do you know? There was another gift that said, "To Chris from Santa." So I opened it up, and you already know what it was. It was Turbo Man. And it was an exciting day for me. I got what I wanted. I jumped for joy. I quickly opened the box, pulled out Turbo Man and all his little gadgets, put the batteries in him so I could hear him say, "It's turbo time! Good work, Booster!" And I had a ball with that toy. And that was probably in my top 5 Christmases of all time right there. Because I actually got what I wanted, and I got to keep it. I actually kept the Turbo Man up until about maybe 5 or 6 years ago. I ended up losing the box, all of the parts to it, so I just ended up selling it at a yard sale because there wasn't really no point in it. I mean, it really wasn't worth anything. I didn't care for Turbo Man anymore, so I sold it at a yard sale. But then there was another Christmas where we were in a pretty nice house. My dad was doing good, making some decent money. He was able to afford a nice house, and he was able to afford to get us some good stuff that Christmas. And we were opening gifts. I was a really big wrestling fan this year. I've always been a good wrestling fan ever since I watched the first match with Stone Cold. But I opened a whole bunch of gifts, and I had wrestling toys. I had a toy wrestling ring. My dad got me a Stone Cold raincoat, Stone Cold pillowcase, bed sheets. I was a super Stone Cold fan then. And then my sister opens this big ass box, and then it's a Nintendo 64 box. So I'm looking over at her, and I'm just pissed off because that is all I asked my parents for that year, was a Nintendo 64 with WrestleMania 2000. And then I look over, I see my sister got the N64. I thought it was a real N64. I didn't know it was just an empty box at the time. And boy, you could see the anger in my face. Like I was just staring at my sister like, why the hell did she get the N64? She doesn't even play video games. She likes NSYNC and Britney Spears. So I was infuriated. Then after all the gifts were unwrapped, my parents said, calm down, Chris. Don't worry. I think Santa got you another gift that he put in the other room. So my mom goes in this other room and she brings out the Christmas tree box that the Christmas tree was in. She said, go ahead and open it up. So I open up the Christmas tree box, and inside was the N64, the controller, and WrestleMania 2000. Whew! That was like the best Christmas ever right there. Like, I jumped for joy. I said, thanks, Mom. Thanks, Dad. Took all the shit into my room, quickly hooked it up to my TV, started playing WrestleMania 2000, and I played that shit for hours on end. I played as Stone Cold, The Rock, The Undertaker. I played as every wrestling character in that game. The finishing moves in that game were some of the best I've seen, and I was just a happy kid. So those are two really good Christmases that I had right there, where I actually got what I wanted and didn't have any disappointments. But then there were other Christmases, like the one where my parents had to go to the church service center to get toys because they couldn't afford to buy us anything. And so Christmas Day, me and my brother and sister, we woke up, we went, we saw that there was Christmas presents under the tree. There really wasn't that many. But I ended up opening a Christmas present that was a used dartboard with no darts. Then I opened up another present that was pretty big, so I was happy. I was like, oh, this is big. Wonder what it could be. And it was, I don't remember the board game, but it was a used board game, and it was missing pieces. Like, there was pieces that it needed to be played that were missing, so I never got around to playing it. Then I opened up a few more that were just random toys, like a monster truck. Not the remote control one, just one that you push around. And then there were some like Hot Wheel cars. They were all used. None were in packages. And I was never a toy car fan or anything like that growing up. I was always an action figure fan. So that Christmas was probably the most disappointing out of all of them. Because every other Christmas, even if I didn't get what I wanted, I always got something pretty good. But that Christmas, I didn't get anything I wanted and didn't get really anything good. It was all used junk. And it was sad. And that's the year that I really stopped believing in Santa Claus. Because I was always a pretty good kid. Got good grades. Never backtalked. Never really did anything bad. So I was like, I was good this year. Why the fuck did Santa screw me over? So I just completely stopped believing in Santa then. But yeah, that's just some of my childhood Christmas stories, and I just figured I'd share them with you guys. There were more that I was going to speak about, but this video is already longer than I anticipated. So anyways, hope you have a Merry Christmas, be safe, enjoy your family, and give praise.